All I can say is that the fake news just doesn't get it, do they? They don't.
And more proof. How can anyone say that what you're about to see is good and righteous and beautiful? The night before, this is during the Black Lives Matter riots. This is the scene outside of St. John's Church in Washington, D.C., right? This was awful, awful stuff. But this somehow was good, social, racial justice. And this was bad. This was horrible. The President of the United States standing in front of a church with the Bible in a peaceful scene is bad. Again, what's good? The rioting, the fires, all that stuff, the violence, the chaos. But a president in front of a church with the book of God is evil. And it really is. I'm not making... Do you remember their reaction to this?
It looked like he was using the church as a step and repeat, like he was on a red carpet, and holding the Bible like he was holding a designer purse.
The President of the United States looking like a wannabe dictator, so he could walk over to a church and pretend to be concerned about the church.
They see a president adrift, a president striding across Lafayette Square, to have this photo opportunity, holding a Bible in the air.
Donald Trump started a riot in the President's Park in Lafayette Park so he could have a photo op and awkwardly, weirdly, bizarrely hold a Bible like nobody has ever held a Bible before.
Getting those people out of there, that wasn't a photo op. That was necessary. I guess they want riots to rage, to not be quelled. And I'm sorry, that is the book of God. He's in front of a church and he's holding it. Why are they so horrified by that? But it wasn't only the media. It was members of Donald Trump's own team who at least say they're horrified. Like this guy, Mark Esper. I know he's hard to place because he was not good as Secretary of Defense and he was only there for a little while, but he's trying to sell a book. He already got his advance and he's getting the full Washington, D.C. swamp treatment. It starts with an appearance last night on 60 Minutes.
A West Point graduate and paratrooper, Esper spent 10 years as a by-the-book Army officer. And when he left active duty, he moved through the revolving doors of think tank jobs, Capitol Hill and Pentagon staff positions, and defense lobbying.
Wow, okay. Think tank, Capitol Hill, lobbyists, staff positions, swamp. Swamp guy. The very definition of swamp. All of the box checked. More.
Tension would grow, as he told us when we met him at his alma mater, West Point.
Because it's important to our country, it's important to the Republic, the American people, that they understand what was going on in this very consequential period. The last year of the Trump administration, and to tell the story about things we prevented, really bad things, dangerous things that could have taken the country in a dark direction.
The dangerous things that Trump wanted to do. That's what he's saying. We'll get to those in a moment. But I don't like that he's doing this at West Point. That's a federal facility. A federal facility is helping them sell a book. Donald Trump was good to West Point, but they've turned on him. Oh, yes, they have. The Biden administration, the entire federal government, they're doing everything they can to stop Trump, including facilitating this ugly book by one of their own. Shame on West Point. It's a great institution. I love it. They shouldn't touch Esper with a 10-foot pole. Next.
You have folks in the White House who are proposing to take military action against Venezuela, to strike Iran. At one point, somebody proposed we blockade Cuba. These ideas would happen, it seemed, every few weeks. Something like this would come up, and we'd have to swat them down.
Swat them down, swat them down. Military action against Iran has happened before, and it may have to happen again, especially with the nuclear agreement that is not in place. That's okay. Elected leaders are allowed to think these things, but swamp bureaucrats like this guy, they think they're in charge. Really is amazing. He's confessing A swamp member confessing, we're in charge, not the elected leaders.
Mark Esper and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, ran the Army for over a year before finding themselves in charge at the Pentagon. In order to deal with what he calls some of the crazy ideas coming from the White House, Esper and Milley came up with a system.
I come up with this idea, actually, Mark Milley and I discuss it, what we call the 4 no's. The 4 things we had to prevent from happening between then and the election. And one was no strategic retreats, no unnecessary wars, no politicization of the military, and no misuse of the military. And so as we went through the next 5 to 6 months, that became the metric by which we would measure things.
It would be incredibly hard, and it's amazing that Donald Trump succeeded as he did with people like this around, following their own agenda. Now, unnecessary wars. Donald Trump, our elected leader, or this guy who you'd never heard of. You know, Iraq, in my opinion, was an unnecessary war. Would he have stood up and said, we can't allow this unnecessary war to happen? I don't think so. I think it was his distaste for President Trump that led him to be so much of an obstacle. There's more.
Esper says to fact-check his book, he sent all or parts of his manuscript to more than 24 current and former 4-star officers, senior civilians from the Pentagon, and cabinet members.
So he's not the only one who wrote this book. Did you hear that? Senior defense officials, generals, cabinet members. This is a swamp hit job. The entire swamp colluding, coming together with, by the way, allegations that if you read them closely, if you really listen, they're not that much. I mean, they rattle this guy's cage, but I think he's a little easily excited somehow.
The president is ranting at the room. He's using a lot of, foul language. You all are effing losers, right? And then he says it to the vice president, Mike Pence. He's using the same language, and he's looking at Pence.
He called Mike Pence an effing loser?
He didn't call him directly, but he was looking at him when he was saying it. And it really caught my attention.
Okay, he says he was in the Army, and he's frazzled when he hears the F word. I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps. I live in New York. It's a word that, unfortunately, you hear a lot. Quite frankly, we've heard Trump use some words in rallies, and this guy is so troubled by it. Oh, my goodness gracious. He's just too precious to be the Secretary of Defense. You know what I mean?
The president greets us, and I say, where are we going? And he just ignores it and starts walking out the door and crossing across the lawn, heading out the gate. And as we round that corner, the press is all over the place, filming, taking pictures. And it just dawned on me at that point in time that we've been duped.
Duped how?
This is now a political stunt, right? And I allowed myself to be put in that position. And it only gets worse, right?
How does it get worse?
Well, we end up in Lafayette Park, up near the church, and that's where the president steps out of the crowd, if you will, goes up, picks up the Bible, and holds it up for everybody to see. And I eventually get directed to come up and join him. And I made that mistake to kind of be there in the first place and to join him.
Wow. So now look, if you're watching this at home, if you're watching it on 60 Minutes, you're like, what's the problem? You're the defense secretary. You're with the president. There was a riot the night before. It was appropriately cleared out. You're apologizing. You're explaining this. Who is he actually explaining it to? Not the American people, not potential book readers, actually. It's to the defense firms. It's to the think tanks. It's to Capitol Hill. It's to the lobbyists. It's to the swamp where he must live and breathe. That's where his survival is, right? That's where his life is, his livelihood, finally.
Esper says he sent out a message to employees of the Department of Defense, reminding them they must remain apolitical and protect freedom of speech. Then he decided that wasn't enough.
The Republic felt wobbly, and that's what prompted me to decide to go before the podium at the Pentagon on June 3rd and say what I said. The option to use active duty forces in a law enforcement role should only be used as a matter of last resort and only in the most urgent and dire of situations. We are not in one of those situations now. I do not support invoking the Insurrection Act.
Right after that, Esper was summoned to the White House. He says he was sure Donald Trump would fire him.
Why did you think he would fire you?
Because I publicly rebuked him.
Yeah, publicly rebuked him. Mutinous. Absolutely mutinous in the swampiest way. Oh, yeah, all the regulations, all the... Now, think about it. The Insurrection Act, I think that might have been kind of useful in 2020. Take a look. Let's compare, right? BLM, the intensity of BLM. They were trying to destroy the country. Media were trying to say it was all beautiful. Let's take a look at that police station one more time. Burned to the ground in Minneapolis. This was beautiful. No Insurrection Act, but this was an insurrection. This is the insurrection, right? It's totally backwards. It's totally crazy. You know it. I know it. Trump knows it. But I got a message for Donald Trump. You got to do better picking these guys next time. And I think there's going to be a next time. You can't rely on rhinos for advice. You can't, and you should probably start interviewing people now. You know, last time he ran, he didn't want to jinx it. He didn't want to get ahead of himself. And I respect that. But now's the time. He's probably going to win. So I think he's going to win. Start talking to the people you want in your cabinet now. All right. I want to say this about an old friend, Mayor Ed Koch. He was the mayor of this city from 1978 to 1990. I got to know him in the mid-'80s, and I knew him all the way up to the time he died. He was a great guy. What a character.
How am I doing? Not too well. Morning, ma'am. How am I doing? Thank you.
How am I doing?
And he was an effective mayor, 3 terms. So, look, Ed Koch was, a bachelor. He never married. And some people assumed certain things about, was he this, was he that? Whatever. It was his business. He said he was heterosexual, and we left it at that. The New York Times over the weekend, in my opinion, shockingly and wildly inappropriately outed him as a gay person. The secrets Ed Koch carried. On and on it went about something he wanted to be kept private. Let's put it up there. I don't think this is right. It was an aching admission shared with only a few. He strained to conceal an essential fact of his biography. Mr. Koch was gay. Front page of the New York Times, by the way. Front page of his beloved New York Times. For the gay friends in whom Mr. Koch confided, some had nudged Mr. Koch for years to come out, suggesting he might be happier for it, that the city might be better for it. Their failure disheartens them to this day. They try to spin it. They try to justify this gossip piece. It was just gossip. Anyway, it was his business, and he preferred it remain private. He has family. He has relatives alive. And by the way, I did know him, and I did like him. And he actually had a great big steak dinner for all the doctors who helped save his life. He had a coronary situation some time ago. And about a year or so went by. They said no steak for a year and a half. And when he could finally have steak, he invited all the doctors and me and a couple of others to Peter Luger's, one of the great steakhouses in all of New York. Anyway, Ed Koch, I'm sorry that happened to you. He was a great mayor. Let's take a look at him one more time. Anyway, there'll never be another one like him. We'll be right back.